Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all again, and a pleasure to start our new season's Skills for All webinars. But let's wait for another 2 minutes so we can have all the people logging in and joining us in the webinar. Thank you. So again, a warm welcome to everybody, and great to see you in such a number. And welcome everybody to our Skills for All series webinars in the season 25-26. My name is Marko Valencic. I work for the IIHF as a development instructor for Europe and Africa, and I'll be going with you through this season as well through our Skills for All webinars. As you can see, we rebranded our IHF logo, and this is just one of the small things that we changed, or this is one of the things that we changed during the new season. But let's focus on the webinars and how we will run this season. So this season, in season 25-26, what we changed a little bit based on your feedback as well, that we changed the time for 1 hour later. So last season we ran it at 2 o'clock p.m. Zurich time. This season we will run it 1 hour later. So it's as you all joined here, it's 3 o'clock Zurich time, and we will run that for every second Wednesday of the month. So every second Wednesday of the month, we'll have a excuse me, designated topic, and this was one of your feedbacks as well, that you enjoy those topics what we had. And one additional topic that we added was a coach education, because this is really important topic that we received a lot of feedback, and we talked last season about coach education in many different areas, but we'll have one specific designated time slot in January that we'll talk about actual coach education, how it's run, and what are the new things that IHF did with coach education, and the levels that we have. So we start with a countrywide development, and as said already, we will go through that. And then for all of our webinars, we will add, based on the need and based on the feedback and based on the availability, one of the IHF initiatives and IHF programs products. And for today, we will talk about the Global Hockey Forum that happened in Nice a few days ago, and we'll have a brief overview of how that went. But as said, through the season, we'll have every second Wednesday of the month, we'll have a different topic, and moving from beginning, from setting up the ground, having the kids in, and retaining them, moving up to learn to play. Then we need to have coach education, officiating, and the national team programming. And then for the end, as a cherry on top, we'll give you some successful club examples as well, that you can go to your federations, and you can see how successful club examples developed, and how you can maybe use some of those knowledge for your federation, for your clubs as well. So just to go to the through every webinar will have a similar structure. So it will be about 45 to 60 minutes. One of the feedbacks from last season was that sometimes it was really good discussions, but it was a little bit longer. So what we will do now is that again, we will have a first housekeeping and introduction, and then we'll have one main topic. And that main topic we will have it for about 30 minutes. And then after that, we'll talk about some IIHF initiatives. And then later on, we will get through those discussions and questions and answers. And all of this will be recorded until discussions and questions and answers, because discussions are, and that was one of the feedbacks as well, that it was good that discussions were not recorded, because then the people can be open and they can have real questions, or maybe they don't need to be afraid if something will stay online forever, let's say that way. So we have two different streams. We have a Zoom link, and on Zoom link, you have a chat option as well as discussion later on. And on YouTube, you just have a chat option. So for everybody who's listening on YouTube, you are welcome as well. And I see that there is quite many people watching it on YouTube. And you can actually go to our webpage, and you can click there on the Zoom link as well. So Zoom is open for everybody who wants to participate in and who wants to be part of discussion after the presentation, after the main topic what we have an IHF initiative. And for the future reference, I'll come back to that as well, but I can say it right now as well, that if some of you don't receive direct links and direct emails about these webinars, you are able to, or I encourage you to send me the email, and I'll put you on the emailing list that receives this. This receives the webinars about 10 days prior to actual webinar that is happening. So now a little bit, I hope we touched everything, and hope we touched all the topics that we needed. And what I would like to start with the main topic of today. And I'm really happy to introduce Balint Fekti, who is actually Hungarian but lived in Finland and lived in China. And now he is in Estonia as a sport director working for their association. And we have growing the game project, or we have growing the game funds that countries can apply for different projects. And we are really happy to run it now for a couple of years. And this is one of the projects that we supported, which was the why the project started is because they had a lack of a structured goalie program in the country. So they didn't have any goalie program, and they had lack of structured trainings as well for the goalies in the country. And the idea of the program was that to build a sustainable foundation and educate coaches. So essentially to help clubs and educate coaches inside the clubs. And the program combines these centralized clinics as well as with on-site visits and mentoring of the coaches and long-term development plans. And for all the questions and for all the questions that you have and for all discussions what you want to have, so when we see the videos, because we pre-recorded this in order not to have some problem with connection. So after we see the videos, you are able to ask questions, because I can see already some hands raised, and we will come back to you after we go through it. So please enjoy. Thank you again, Balint, for joining us, and I will I Atti will let me know if the sound works. I hope it does, or it should be working. So let's try. Okay, I heard no. So let's try. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll start sharing again, and then let's see if it will be working now. Screen two. There you go. There you go.
Everyone, and thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here today as part of the Skills4All series and to have the chance to share what's been a very exciting and meaningful journey for us here in Estonia. I want to begin by sincerely thanking Marko Valencic for the opportunity to present our goalie coaching development program to the hockey world. This kind of platform means a lot to smaller associations like ours, and we truly appreciate it. My name is Balint Fekti, and I'm the sports director for the Estonian Ice Hockey Association, or as we call it, Eesti Hockey. Today, I'd like to take you through the goalie coaching development project we have been building across the country. This isn't a story about perfection. It's a story about starting with very little structure, very few coaches, and slowly building something that is now changing the way we develop goalies in Estonia. And I hope that by sharing our story, it might inspire or help some of you in your own environments as well. Now, before I go into what we have done, I think it's important to show you where we are coming from, literally. Estonia is a small country in Northern Europe, just south of Finland, with a population of around 1.3 million. In hockey terms, we are definitely a small market nation. We have about 15 active hockey clubs in total, and 7 of those have structured youth development programs. So, as you can imagine, resources, both financial and human, are limited. And yet, the passion is there, the desire is there. What we have been missing is structure and strategy. To give you a bit of perspective, our entire hockey community could probably fit into one small Canadian city rink on a Saturday. But we are doing everything we can to make those numbers count. So when we talk about building a national goalie coaching system, we are not talking about adding to something that was already in place. We are talking about building something from scratch and doing that in a way that fits our size, our reality, and our vision. Let's be honest, goalie development is often left out of the bigger picture. In many countries, even those with more resources than we have, goalies are developed almost by accident. Maybe there is one former goalie in the club who takes care of them. Maybe they got a few minutes of attention at the end of the practice, but usually there is no plan, no path. In Estonia, it was no different. Goalies were treated like individuals, not like a development system. And if there is no system, there is no sustainability. That's a huge problem. We haven't done a formal study or data analysis yet to compare how well our goalies are performing internationally. But in my personal opinion, goalie development has been our Achilles heel for decades. And here's a simple way I have always looked at it. In a national team, if your goalie isn't one of the top 3 most valuable players year after year, then it usually means your goalie development is lagging behind your player development. That's not a hard fact, of course, but it's a useful indicator we have often used to fill the gap. And this was the case in Estonia for many years. So we knew for a long time that we had to stop treating goalie development as an afterthought and start treating it as a strategic priority. So where did we start from? In 2024, only 3 of the junior clubs in the entire country had a regular active goalie coach. The rest either had no one or had someone listed as a goalie coach only on paper, but they weren't really involved. Some clubs' goalie development was to give equipment to the kids and stand in the net and stop the puck practice after practice. There was no national strategy for goalie coaching. But even more than that, there was no strategy for goalie coaching at the club level either. It just didn't exist. Some club leaders openly said we are not big enough to need a goalie coach. That was the mindset. Now, to be clear, this wasn't because people didn't care. The coaches we have in Estonia care deeply, but they are also stretched. Many are volunteers, many are working full-time jobs. And when you are juggling coaching work and personal life, goalie education almost always ends up being the thing that's skipped. Not out of laziness, just out of survival. So the result was a situation where goalie coaching existed here and there, but it wasn't a system. It wasn't coordinated, and it definitely wasn't sustainable. That brings us to the turning point. in 2024, we had the opportunity to join the IIHF Domestic Development Program. And we knew right away that if we were going to focus on one area where we could make a long-term difference, it had to be goalie coaching. We didn't want to create a one-off event. We wanted to start a full year process, something that could actually shift the culture, change attitudes, and build a foundation for the future. To do that, we needed the right person to lead it. That person was Tino Turkia. Tino is not only a goalie coach developer for the Finnish Ice Hockey Association, he's also the head of junior goalie coaching at KK Kouvola in Finland. And he has been working with the Estonians under 18 national team for several years. So he already knew our clubs, our people, or most of them, or some of them, our challenges, and importantly, he believed in our potential. But while we needed a clear figurehead to lead the program, a project like this is never a one-man show. Even though I'm the one speaking here today, the real work has been done by Tino with the daily ongoing support from our team at ASD Hockey. I want to take a moment to sincerely thank Elena Rasva from our office, who made sure everything was organized and every piece of paperwork for the IHF was done right. She was the backbone of the operation. And I want to thank Yuri Roba, who acted as the project manager and helped Tino communicate with the clubs and coaches while he was on the ground in Estonia. His calm presence and practical help were essential to making it all run smoothly. Also, working with the IHF and with Marco in particular was an amazing experience. They gave us just enough structure to build our own program, but also the flexibility to adapt and adjust it through the year. That balance between guidance and freedom was really key for us. It allowed us to create something that was tailor-made for Estonia. So in other words, it's not enough to have just one right leading person. A project of this magnitude must be supported by great teamwork, just like in a game of ice hockey. So once the structure was in place, the first major step of the project was to bring coaches together in one room, or rather one rink. In August 2024, we held Estonia's first ever national goalie coaching clinic. It took place at Tondirapa Ice Arena in Tallinn, and it was led by Tino Turkia. We scheduled the clinic during the U16 national team Four Nations tournament that was happening at the same time in the same arena. That gave the participants a really unique opportunity, not only to learn in theory, but to actually see a national team goalie session happening live right in front of them. It brought the material to life in a way that you can't always achieve in a classroom setting. We invited not only goalie coaches, but also team coaches, because we strongly believe that understanding goalie development isn't just the responsibility of the goalie coach. It has to be integrated into the whole coaching philosophy of a club. We had 13 coaches attend, and for a country of our size, that was a really positive turnout. More than anything, this clinic was a statement. For the first time, we were saying, as an association, goalie development matters. We are investing it. We are going to treat it seriously. The event included both on ice and off ice sessions, but just as important, it opened the door for dialogue. Coaches shared what they struggled with, what worked in their clubs, and what they never had time or space to think about before. It wasn't a big production and it wasn't perfect, but it was a real step forward, and it marked the beginning of a shift in mindset. Now, after the clinic, we wanted to get a deeper understanding of what was actually happening at club level. So in September 2024, we launched the second phase, club visits. Tino visited all seven major clubs in Estonia, major junior clubs. But no, he didn't step on the ice with a whistle. This wasn't a coaching tour. He observed team practices, analyzed how goalies were being used for a day or two, and spoke in depth with club directors or owners, team coaches, and of course, goalie coaches, if there were any. And it's during these kind of visits where the magic happens. The conversations get honest, the feedback gets real, and people start to think differently. Conversations get so enthusiastic that after visiting Narva, which is Estonia's easternmost club, just on the Russian border, Tino and Yuri Roba, who was managing the project and supporting Tino with communication, were driving back to Tallinn. Their discussion in the car got so passionate, so animated about the state of goalie coaching in Estonia that they forgot to check the speedometer. Turns out the Estonian police are not yet part of the goalie development movement, and they awarded us with a 400 euro fine for the enthusiasm. And ladies and gentlemen, we learned that traffic violations are not accepted as valid invoices in the IIHF project accounting. That was a painful but memorable lesson. But all jokes aside, the visits gave us real insights, and Tino followed them up with a full report of 15 pages. The main key findings were that every club now has at least one goalie coach, but at that time it wasn't. But most often, even if they have them, those coaches were part-time and have to cover all age groups from under 8 to senior, which makes them spread thin. Goalie coaches often get just a small window of time, 10 to 40 minutes per team practice if they get on a team practice, usually at the beginning of the session. Uh, the 40 minutes was after the system started to work, but when we went there, the clubs tried to show their best behavior. So in all honesty, it was a really, really small time on the ice for the goalie coaches. There was very little video feedback, almost no analysis of game situations, and very little teaching about playing to the end. No rebound drills, no battle habits. So while we did that for the players already, it was non-existent for goalies. Save percentages in practices were low, generally, 50 to 60%. And that's telling us that either the goalies aren't ready or they're simply not engaged for every shot. And one very interesting pattern, when Tino asked each club whether they were happy with their goalies, every single one said no. They all believed that their goalies were weaker than those of their rival clubs. So either everyone of else is better or no one's is satisfied. But at the same time, they all said they were happy with their goalie coaches, even if they had none. Which means we don't have people problem, we have a structure problem. The conclusion was clear. Estonia needed consistency, shared methods, standards, and most of all support. This phase helped us to understand that building the coaching system wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. Now, after the club visits, we saw clearly that one of the biggest challenges for our goalie coaches was time. And most of them are part-time. They work full-time jobs, coach across multiple age groups, and often manage their own families and personal responsibilities on top of that. So expecting them to travel regularly for in-person education just wasn't realistic. That's why we launched a live online course series, something simple and accessible where coaches could join from home in the afternoons or evenings, ask questions directly to Tino, and learn step by step how to structure their work better. We wanted to give them consistency, community, and support. And when it worked, it really worked. Coaches told us that these sessions helped them move toward their own goals, like building a structure for their goalie program at the club level. But I'll be honest, it wasn't always easy. There were nights, or actually afternoons, when a few coaches couldn't make it. There was even one session where no one could show up. So Tina was sitting online alone. Not because they didn't care, but because they just couldn't make it work with their schedules. And that's the reality we are working with. But even so, the course helped plant ideas. It gave coaches a framework, and more importantly, it showed them that we are here to support them, not just once a year at a clinic, but throughout the season. It's not perfect, or it wasn't perfect, but it was a step in the right direction, and it's something we will keep building on in the future. In April 2025, we held our second national goalie coaching clinic, this time with a smaller, more focused group focused on the goalie coaches. We organized it during our under 18 national team's preparation camp for the World Championships, which gave us a unique opportunity. Not only could we deliver more in-depth coaching contact, but we could also give the participating goalie coaches a chance to observe and integrate into a national team's goalie training for a full day. That was a big step. It allowed these coaches to see how things operate at the national level, how a high performance environment is built, and how Tina works with goalies in a championships preparation setting. In total, we had 5 goalie coaches took part, and a younger goalie who wants to be one day a goalie coach. We had hoped for more, but again, we are working with part-time coaches, most of whom have full-time jobs and the family responsibilities, as we talked about. The fact that 5 could carve out the time during the busiest stretch of the season was already a win. The clinic itself was structured and lecture based and led by Tino. The focus was on practical planning, seasonal structuring, and refining the development process inside the clubs. It wasn't an interactive roundtable discussions, but also we had that in the end, but it didn't need it to be for the whole day. What it gave coaches was clarity, structure, and confidence to move forward. It connected what they had learned over the season into something they could begin to own and apply themselves. And just like the first clinic, it showed that this isn't a one-time effort. We are committed to showing up again and again and helping our goalie coaches keep moving forward. Originally, our project was scheduled to wrap up in the spring, so it was one season, but after the April clinic, we still felt there was one more thing we could do to really support our goalie coaches before the new season began. So we asked the IIHF for an addition and a short extension, short several months, and they approved it. That gave us just enough space to do something special in September, right before the next season kicked off. After working with the coaches online and giving them a bit of breathing room during the summer to process everything from the previous season, we decided to finish the program with one final push of inspiration. We took 4 of our active goalie coaches who could make it to Finland for 3 full days in Kouvola, where Tino works as the head of junior goalie development for Koko, so head coach for goalie coaches. The goal was to show them what a real functioning goalie development system looks like up close. Not in a presentation or a video, but in the daily rhythm of a professional club. And they saw exactly that. For 3 full days, they observed how goalie coaching is integrated into every age group, how training plans are built, how feedback is given, how the coaches communicate, and how the goalie coach is fully embedded into the club's development model. It gave our coaches clarity, it gave them ideas, but most importantly, it gave them the realistic reference point, something they could connect to their own club environments back in here in Estonia. And to close the trip, the group got to enjoy an assembly game live in Kouvola before coming home, which is quite an experience since we have one Estonian player on the Kouvola, on the Koko team. It was a perfect way to wrap up the experience with some excitement and a sense of belonging to the wider hockey world. This wasn't just a reward, it was a final impulse before the new season, a way to energize our coaches and help them start fresh with a new mindset, new tools, and a clear direction. So, after one full year of work, what actually changed? First of all, the numbers speak for themselves. At the start of this project, only 3 clubs in Estonia had a goalie coach actively working throughout the season. Now all 7 major clubs have at least one dedicated goalie coach, and some even have two. And that was the measurable goal of this project number one we set for the project with the IIHF. That's a huge step. It's the first time we have had a full national coverage for goalie coaching at the club level. We had full participation from clubs throughout the season. Yes, communication took time. Yes, it wasn't always easy, but every single club stayed involved from the beginning to the end, and that matters. It shows trust, it shows commitment, and it shows momentum. Nearly every goalie playing in a major club in Estonia was touched by this project, whether through direct coaching, improved structure, or simply more attention in training sessions. We ran 2 national clinics, one with 13 coaches and one with 5. This was the second measurable goal for our IIHF domestic development program. We held multiple live online sessions. We completed club visits in every region, and we sent 4 coaches abroad for high-level exposure in Finland. But beyond the numbers, something deeper started to shift. Clubs began implementing goalie-specific ice sessions, something that barely existed before. Goalie coaches started showing up to regular team practices, and maybe the most important, or most importantly, we started hearing something new. Positive feedback from parents who noticed that the structure, quality, and consistency of goalie coaching had visibly improved. Now, is it perfect? No. No, not by a long shot. But for the first time, we're seeing the start of a system, not just isolated effort. And we are sure we will see a huge improvement how our goalies perform already in the next few um, junior world championships, if we keep up this system. That's a transformation, and it's one where we are proud of. Over the course of this project, there are 3 things we come to believe very strongly. First, goalie development must be strategic, not accidental. For too long, our goalie development happened when someone had time or if we happen to have a goalie coach. That's not a development, that's survival. If you want to raise your goalie level nationally, you need to treat it as a planned long-term system. Second, you don't need the perfect coach, you need a functioning system. Of course, we all want elite level coaches, but the truth is, especially in smaller countries like ours, you'll never have enough perfect coaches. What you can do is build a structure that helps motivated coaches grow, no matter where they start from. When the system is clear, even an average coach can do above average work. And third, attitudes do change, but only if you show results early. When we started this program, some clubs didn't even think they needed a goalie coach. But now, after a year of visible improvement, it's not a debate anymore. People believe in it because they have seen it work. That's why we focus so much on taking actions first and then explaining later. So for us, isn't just about goalies. It's about what happens when you combine structure, persistence, and the willingness to just begin. Of course, the work is not done, not even close. One of our biggest ongoing challenges remains the same: time. Most of our goalie coaches are still part-time or juggling work, family, and coaching across several age groups. And no matter how passionate they are, the reality is they are stretched thin. At the same time, we have now laid a foundation and we must make sure that we never go backwards from here. This has to be the baseline for goalie development in Estonia from now on. We need to keep pushing ourselves to organize more activities, to offer more consistent support, and to help our goalie coaches keep developing not only their skills, but also the system inside their clubs. And maybe, just maybe one day, we can build something that Estonia has never had before: a unified countrywide goalie coaching system where we all speak the same language and follow the same standards. But there is another important point I want to be honest about. There was one goal in this project that we didn't achieve. And at the beginning, we set the target together with the IIHF to identify and develop a goalie coach mentor, someone who could take on a national leadership role in the future. Someone who is active in a club, but also willing to guide and support other goalie coaches across the country. That didn't happen. And the reason is simple: the time was too short. Again, time. You can't expect someone to step into that kind of role in just one season. But that doesn't mean we dropped the goal. It means we carry it forward. Now it's our responsibility to find that person, or grow that person and give them the tools to succeed in that role. Because if we want to create a real lasting system, we need more than clinics and online sessions. We need leadership from within. And that's what we are working toward right now, or from now on. Now, if I had to give advice to on any other country or federation thinking about starting something like this, I'd say this: start with what you have. Don't wait for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, or the perfect coach. Just begin imperfectly. That's how we started. You don't need to design a 5-year strategy from day one. What you need is one clear decision that goalie development matters. That was the decision for us. From there, you build it brick by brick, and be consistent. That might be the most underrated ingredient in development. Just show up. Keep showing up. When coaches and clubs see that you are committed, even in small ways, they start to commit back. Also, meet people where they are. In a small country like ours, you can't afford to lead only from the top. You have to listen, you have to go to the clubs, you have to understand what they are dealing with. Only then can you offer support that actually fits. And finally, trust the process. There were moments during the year where we weren't sure it was working. Sessions were missed, coaches were tired, some ideas didn't land, but we kept going. And by the end, we could clearly see the change. So if you're starting something or thinking about it, My message is simple. Begin with what you have and just don't stop. Thank you all so much for listening. This project has been one of the most meaningful things I have been part of in the past couple of seasons, and not because it was a big or flashy, but because it was real. We worked with what we had. We made mistakes. We adjusted, and together with the coaches, the clubs, and the support of the IIHF, we created something that we truly believe can grow into a long-term system. I want to thank the IIHF once again for their support, and especially Marco Valancic for believing in this project and giving us the flexibility to shape it to our own reality. That made all the difference. And of course, a huge thanks to Tino Turkia, to Yuri Roba, and to Elena Rasva, and to all of our goalie coaches across Estonia who showed up, stayed involved, and moved the needle one step at a time. If there is anything you would like to ask, I'm happy to answer questions or just have a conversation after the session. So thank you again for giving Estonia the chance to share our story.
2 years ago when we started to prepare for the Global Hockey Forum, had a vision of, how do we connect the smaller countries and the bigger countries? I think that's the key in all of this, is that you connect with each other, have a platform to ask questions when you go back.
The forum was a tremendous success, and I think we were able to take out of the forum, specifically on the marketing side, some really good nuggets and ideas that are the actions that we need to take forward.
It's been an amazing 2 days of discovery, of learning, of empowerment, I think, for the women's game, but for the entire hockey ecosystem. I think we have such a huge opportunity to grow the sport and to think with the big H. How do we make hockey more ubiquitous across the globe?
The expertise is not on the stage, it's in the audience. The collective wisdom in this room is far greater than anything I could offer or any other speaker could offer. And hopefully what we do is we're the catalyst for you to go make those connections and ask the right questions. That's how you take something out of something like this.
So I wanted to show the video first, but first thank you for Balint for presenting this, and it wasn't really required to. It was a pleasure really working with you on this project, and thanks again for the great work and for the effort that you did with your team there in Estonia. And IHF is really happy to help and support projects that are really valid for development of the countries. But we'll talk about this was part of domestic development program, which is now part of the Growing the Game Fund, which will be opened in November and it will close on 21st of December for the projects for next season. But we'll talk about that in our next webinar. So I already moved because I already moved to another part of our program, which is the IHF initiative. And this time I'm really happy to talk about the Global Hockey Forum that happened in Nice last weekend, a few days ago, and it was really a pleasure to host so many different experts. And it was really what we try to do is we try to bring people together from different member national associations, partners, and experts from around the world. And it served as you heard from the video, it served as a platform to exchange ideas, to exchange the best practices, and to really talk about sustainable growth in ice hockey. And to have that sustainable growth in ice hockey, our members decide on three main focus key themes for this Global Hockey Forum, which was development, marketing, and women's hockey. So we had the main speakers for everybody. Then we had three different streams during those 2 days that we had. and in which we discussed on those three different topics or those three different teams, and really worked with the members, worked with the federations who send their people in charge of, so we can get better all together. And this Global Hockey Forum really encourages innovation and collaboration, as well as strategic alignment with our ICE 26 framework or ICE 26 strategy. What our members together with the council and the office built, and it was one of the main areas what we tried to do. So I want to show you another video, what was kind of a recap of the whole Global Hockey Forum that happened in Nice, and so let's watch it all together.
We promised to do it because that was a big part of our strategic plan. That's the first edition, so we are a little bit nervous, but I'm really confident when I saw the beginning of this forum.
I think the dialogue is important between different countries, the different federations, have an open discussion on what's working in different parts of the world, because not every place have the same opportunities right now. And so, yeah, that dialogue is everything, I think.
You know, to come and do this, and the importance of this, and the fact that it's the first global summit that has women's hockey component, it's a big deal for me. Like, you know, I try to help grow hockey in my own country, but when you're trying to grow it around the world, it's a big deal.
We had just about 100 people on the beach running and walking, but it wasn't running and walking, it's connecting. It's, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's what makes me smile and go, you know what, we're getting somewhere. I'm really, really happy. First of all, with the speakers, the moderators, but it's about the people attending. They're so engaged. That's just the start. We have to make sure that we have plans for the future and follow up on that. Everyone says it's been great. I'll let you know what I think about it in 2 years, because we got to make a difference. We're here to make a difference for young boys and girls to play the game of hockey.
So as we can see in the video, it's really the start of something big, and we as the IIHF will now have the follow-up sessions with the people participating there, and let's see when the new strategy comes in, what will be the program. But this was really one of the main topics with our strategy, what we wanted to do, and it was executed during the last week. So this brings us a little bit closer to the end, and so you can scan this QR code, or you can type down this link. So all the presentations are recorded, and you can find them on our webpage, and as well as this one will be available on our webpage as well if you want to go back and listen it again. And we really want to encourage everybody to go check what we did for last 3 seasons, and maybe there is some interesting webinar presentation that could help you out in your current situation. And as said, this is our yearly plan, or our season calendar that we have. So every webinar will be the second Wednesday of the month, and it will be at 3 p.m. CET or 15 o'clock Zurich time, whichever way it's easier for you to have. And for our listeners on YouTube, we have open chat option, and for our listeners on Zoom, we will have the questions and answers and discussion afterwards. But we will record, as said, we record only the part that we are presenting, and the discussion will not be recorded, because we want people to have a safe environment to discuss, ask questions, and comment on it. So thank you again for everybody watching here. It's been a really big pleasure, and again, if you have any questions or comments, you can send me an email, or you can check on our webpage for the next ones, and you can send me an email as well if you didn't receive the direct email about the webinar. I'll be happy to send you and put you on the emailing list. So thanks all for our YouTube listeners, and we will cut down the YouTube stream shortly, and we will continue on Zoom having questions and answers and a good discussion with people who wanna have some discussions and have some questions for Balint or for myself. And yeah, if anybody, again, I encourage everybody